What's up, CFM? This is Coach Matt. I am excited to bring to you another week of fitness excitement. Hopefully you guys are enjoying it. This is our last 2 weeks before our max out. So we will be going relatively hard, but I want you to also think about what's coming up in the future, scaling appropriately, looking ahead. It's not just what's on the plate today. We're thinking of the entire program and then the program of programs that fits into the year-long cycle, right? So we're gonna kick off this week with a relatively higher intensity workout. However, this one's not gonna be on the clock. It's going to be for just big efforts on the sled pushes. The other exercises will be challenging, but you will have time to rest and think and reset between them, because with a rope climb, we're gonna be going higher off the ground. With some of the other ones, I want some detail. And with the sleds, I want you to push hard, pull hard when you are on them. So each movement has its own little detail to it. And whenever we're in a workout like that, I like to take the pressure off of you, off of the clock, or without having the clock pushing you to go faster, and allow you time to think about some of your more detailed positions, but also work really hard when it comes to some of those higher intensity elements. And trust me, you'll have time for playing with the clock later on in the week. So let's begin with the warm-up. Start off with a 600-meter jog, and then come back when you get a couple rounds through. Get your plate out. Front foot elevated split squats. This is a fantastic knee and hip health exercise. So I want you to be thinking about more forward and backward when we do this exercise. At the bottom position, I want the trailing knee to just barely touch the ground. The heel should stay planted on the plate the entire time, and I'm trying to drive that knee as far forward of that foot as I can. Using a bench can also assist on this, or the higher your elevation is of the bottom of your foot on this front foot, the easier it is to get into that stretch position without putting a lot of load on the leg. So a plate is sort of a medium place to start. If you do this just on the ground or with a block underneath your heel, it's the hardest possible iteration of that movement. Higher on the bench is a little bit easier. All right, next we're gonna do 4 reps of a sumo inchworm. So get into a really big wide stance. If you feel a lot of tension in your back with your feet this wide, just go ahead and inch them in a little bit narrower, and that doesn't force the hips to stretch quite as much. All right, so if that pulls your pelvis into a forward position, just narrow the stance a little bit. And we're just doing our inchworm. So stretch down, get a good hamstring, low back stretch there. Walk yourself all the way out. If you can do a push-up at the bottom, do your push-up at the bottom, and then walk your hands back. Try not to let your hands leave the ground until you've walked all the way back to in line with your feet, and then reach up overhead. Next, we're gonna do some hollow band pullovers. This is a great warm-up exercise, also strengthening exercise for the lats as well as the core, so it's a great prep for our hanging that we're gonna do today. So I'll get a little stretch on the band, and then lay myself down, right? And now I'll get into my hollow position, pulling down to get to my thighs, right? So the band is probably about chest height overhead, and I'm pulling down to get to my thighs. Another option on this is to widen your hand a little bit harder. The plate, and I'm pulling straight down, okay? So you're gonna push down, leave the sled as it is, grab the yellow strap that's gonna be wrapped around the sled, and we're pulling backwards, and then push back, okay? So when you finish that, come back inside. You're gonna either do 2 rope climbs, 6 laybacks, or some combination of those two. I'd love to see some people who are on the bubble on rope climbs at least attempt a couple of foot pins and a couple of inchworms up the rope, even if you don't go all the way up. And I'll let that count for a couple of your laybacks before you go to your layback. So we are working on creating that friction between your feet and the rope and moving your body up the rope. Even if you don't go to the top, that would be a great way to sort of work your way into the full rope climb movement. All right, next we're gonna do some Captain Morgans. All right, Captain Morgan, you're gonna be on your side, so side plank position. And this is also the basic movement here. So if Captain Morgan is just too tough for the muscles in the hips and the core, then just work on about a 30-second side plank. For the Captain Morgan, I'll have my front leg in, or my top leg in front, and then I'm just marching back and forth 10 steps. So that is 5 steps on the left, 5 steps on the right. The big deal here is making sure my body stays perpendicular to the ground, so I'm not twisted towards the ground, and that my bottom leg gets all the way out front of my top leg, like so. So you can see my heel in front of my leg right there as I step forward, okay? That is my Captain Morgan. Then we're gonna do some strict toes to bar. Can you see me right here? Yeah, so strict toes to bar. The goal here is to control the eccentric. So I'm gonna raise up, try to touch my toes to the bar, and then in control, lower myself down. And if I do this right, my heels should never go behind the bar as I'm doing them, okay? The alternate for this one would just be a lying leg raise, again with that controlled eccentric, and the top, and then I'm reaching my toes as far away from my hands as possible as I'm lowering myself down. You don't have to go that slow, but that's an example of how to get the most out of that movement is by controlling the eccentric. And then our plate ground overheads. I realize as I'm reviewing this, I've kind of gone out of order here, but get each of these within one round. So same plate on the ground, 45-35 is the prescribed weight, and we're just going using that good posture pickup, right? We're going hips to overhead and then back to touching the ground, 20 reps, ground to overhead, right? We're gonna get 4 rounds through that. Again, not for time, but for focused effort on each of those different components of the workout. That is it for our Monday. Hope you guys have a great one. I'll see you on Tuesday.